I'm Leslie Wegener from the La Crosse Area League of Women Voters. This recording project is being done in partnership with three other nonpartisan organizations: the La Crosse Area Chamber of Commerce, the La Crosse Area Development Corporation, and UWL's Department of Political Science and Public Administration. Together, our Civic Engagement Coalition seeks to encourage voter interest and participation in the upcoming mayoral election. And we also want to give La Crosse voters the opportunity to learn about each candidate and their views on local issues impacting our community. The format is an informal one-on-one Q&A session between each candidate and Chamber CEO Beth Franklin. Each candidate will be asked the same questions in the same order. We developed the questions to cover a range of topics and have asked the candidates to keep their answers concise so we can cover as many as time allows. They have not received the questions in advance, and candidate responses will not be edited for content. At the end, you'll find more information about election dates and where you can check on your voter registration and what's on your ballot. Your vote is your power, and it takes all of us exercising that power to make democracy work. Thank you for watching.
It is my pleasure to welcome Vicki Markussen, who is running to be the next mayor of La Crosse. Vicki, thank you for participating in this candidate conversation today. So let's start with the basics. Tell us about yourself and what motivates you to run for mayor.
Thanks, Beth. It's great to be here. So I think we all want change. And when I hear from young professionals that if they were to buy a home in the city of La Crosse, they would never choose this city to live in, that shows that we need change. And since the last election, I have remained true to myself. I am rooted in gratitude. I am grateful that this community developed me into the leader that I am. I'm grateful that they watched my family grow. They helped my three boys grow into young men. They embraced our family as my husband battled cancer and lifted our family up. And so I am just grateful. My background is also just roots my gratitude of I was that kid. So I was a kid who had free lunches. I got a full ride to Madison because my dad had passed away of cancer when I was a freshman and in high school. And so I got a full ride to Madison, which I realize what a gift that is and what a life-changing experience. And that was on taxpayers. So I came here for my first job, TV reporter in La Crosse, serving the public, getting information out. I've had the pleasure of helping advocate for housing, for small businesses, for the North Side. And it is my passion. And so I am continuing to serve many nonprofits. I've helped Indigenous Women in Business start up an organization, which is just very heart-filling. And now I have the pleasure of having a front seat in workforce development to seeing the complications of people's lives that are barriers to them working. And so I've done all of this. And there's a very wise man in our community who says, service is love in action. And I love La Crosse. I see how we can be better. I see how we need to be the place that people choose to live, work, and play. And that's why I'm asking for people to vote for me for mayor.
Good, thank you. So our first question, if elected, what are your top 3 priorities for your first term as mayor?
Everyone's talking about homelessness, of course. The 3 that I hear are homelessness, housing, and the city administrator. Property taxes is closely tied in there. So homeless, we've done a great job at last of getting the county on board. We have to continue with Pathways Home. That we've invested too much and gotten too far in this to not see that through. The piece that I see, though, I've asked them, what is the plan for prevention? Because I have a person I saw every day at the Workforce Development Center. I'm going to call him Frank. He has an adult son who has a slight disability. Frank lost his job. He was in the job center every single day. All he could get was a part-time job. He's a veteran, and he could not find a home to live in. He was homeless. And I said to him, Frank, I enjoy talking to you, but I look forward to the day that I don't see you again, because that means he got a job. Mm-hmm. We have to help these people that are doing everything. They are working hard. They just need a leg up, and we need to find some housing solutions for them as well. The second topic, housing, ties right in with that. So we, of course, have a housing crisis. We, as the city, have large developments going into River Point District at last. We have 4th and Jackson. I've watched on the Economic Development Commission these projects come through. But what we don't have, I just heard from a first-time homeowner who said, I'm competing for my first home with seniors who have cash that are downsizing. And then they get into a bidding war. And of course, the senior with cash is going to win over a first-time home buyer and who has to have a mortgage. And so the challenge that we have is we have to have, as the housing study shows, a wide spectrum of housing. We are hyper focused on large rentals right now because it has the quantity, but we need single families. We need young professionals coming in. Those families, there's growth happening outside of our community, and those schools are doing slightly better than La Crosse. But we have the opportunity, if we can find senior housing, to have those individuals age gracefully in some housing options. And that frees up, I've said it to the city of La Crosse time and time again, we have a tremendous opportunity for first-time homeownership. Those new homeowners can come in, they can develop those properties, which we all want, and it'll revitalize our neighborhoods, it'll help our schools. And so we need to be working on the full circle, full spectrum of housing. Last but not least, the city administrator comes up. The city administrator is an interesting one because this is my second go round. I've sat through many debates and done many questionnaires now. Never has anyone asked, what is your qualification to create a budget over $1 million? We have a $72 million budget, and they have never asked, how many people have you led in the past? Those are the qualifications the mayor has to have in these duties. And if we're not going to elect based on them, then we have to have a city administrator who has those capabilities, because those are two very important things to efficiency in City Hall and to how we allocate and prioritize that we're not asking of our mayoral candidates right now.
Good, thank you. Next question. What are some current city initiatives or policies you plan to support and sustain? So a policy, I always think of policy as what are we going to create, and there's some things that are happening really well right now. So we have prioritized housing. We have the housing study done. I will tell you, after 15 years of working in housing, it had no surprises. We need it all. We need to prioritize that housing. We have to make sure that we're being sensitive to our neighborhood associations. I've attended quite a few of those across the city. And our neighbors are the voice of our people. And we have to make sure that they are in lockstep with us. There's a saying someone told me once, that you can lead so far in advance that you become the enemy. And I think the city, by not engaging, create some enemies out of individuals who just don't understand the direction that is happening. So there's some interesting things with zoning that are happening. We've talked about Pathways Home. We need to keep that going. I was very pleased to see the budget that we have grown our tax base. Those are also things that we need to be continuing to do as a city. Okay, thank you. How can the city of La Crosse increase its appeal as a place in which to work, live, or raise a family? In other words, to attract more long-term residents and fewer commuters?
Yeah, so some of that I touched on with the housing question, of course. But one of the things that we have to be sure of is these amenities that we have in our community, that we're not cutting them as part of our budget cuts. So I was there advocating for the Northside pool. I pointed out the reason that it's not getting as much use is because Northside Elementary is in session school all year round. And so a pool is a tremendous asset to the homes on the north side. We also have to be really sensitive to, I hear it time and time again, where are we putting the lower income housing? Tax credits are used for a lot of those housing projects. Where are we putting them? Making sure we're not creating concentrations of those individuals. And we have to have things for kids to do in the summer. We now have 2 schools that were year-round that are no longer. And we have to ensure that these amenities that cause people to choose us are here. I think we have a vibrant downtown. I think I've heard it from South Side neighbors saying, what's on the South Side for us? And the North Side, certainly we're working to create vibrancy. I'm very excited about the Caledonia Parklet that's being built out. Again, just adding amenities throughout the city.
Okay, thank you. The current mayor and city council have discussed adding a city administrator position, and you talked a little bit about this,
Mhm.
and then postpone the issue for further study. Anything else to add on your view or your position on the city administrator position?
Yeah, I'm grateful they slowed it down because there's nothing worse than the prior, we'll just call it administration, making decisions for who is coming through. And I think the general public still needs a lot of time. It gets back to that engagement, making sure that it's going out to the public, not just via social media, but to where the public is gathering and being basically educating and making sure that they are understanding of why the city administrator would be an important role. A lot of what I'm hearing are people just want to directly elect the city administrator. It is a high paid position. And I think the last vote happened, I think 10 years ago about the city administrator. So of course, it's always good to have to refresh those conversations, make sure it's rooted in education and to inform the public.
Perfect, thank you. With the city of La Crosse being the county seat for La Crosse County and neighbors with several other cities like Onalaska, Holmen, and West Salem, how do you view the mayor's role when it comes to intergovernmental cooperation, working with neighboring government entities?
Yeah, so that gets back to Seven Rivers Alliance. That was my role, was working across borders. So we even created compacts, if you will, where businesses came and said, "Yep, we pledged to work together." So I've given kudos. Pathways Home, we had to have the county engaged in that. It finally happened. You know, we have things happening that the city of La Crosse is doing that impact our neighbors and vice versa. And so ensuring that there are conversations, particularly like around border agreements. I know there's several of those pending and coming up that we can approach that, obviously being mindful of the restricted capacity that we have in the city of La Crosse to grow, but also mindful that these communities want to keep their identity and have concerns about becoming part of a larger city. And so we need to find those compromises as those conversations happen.
Okay, thank you. What do you see as the strengths and challenges of our local business environment, and what opportunities exist to support local businesses?
So I'm concerned. So there's large businesses, there's small businesses, there's businesses in between, but really we have mostly small businesses. Something like 70% of all communities are small business. The small businesses have not fully rebounded. The big businesses, remote working has significant impact. And as a result, we don't have those individuals downtown patronizing. They're staying at home and having lunch as opposed to getting out to Northside or Southside businesses. We have to figure out how we fill these large office spaces that are a significant contributor to our property tax base and to our vitality. And we also have to be mindful, obviously, parking is a hot topic downtown now because that's critical to ensuring that individuals can patronize those stores, that seniors don't have to walk too far to get to the businesses that they want to get to. And then we also have to be mindful. I always say, and this will not surprise my North Side friends, there's more than just downtown. How do we create vitality in our businesses on the North Side and the South Side? And the North Side hears me say time and time again, what's good for North Side businesses are good for neighborhoods and vice versa. The neighborhoods need strong businesses, the strong businesses need strong neighborhoods, and we have to stay focused on what they need and how we can address that in a way that is sensitive to neighbors.
Thank you.
Mhm.
How would you approach relationship building between the mayor, the common council, and city department heads?
So the city council sets policy. So they say this is what we want to have happen. The mayor is the individual who works with the department heads to ensure that that happens. What I appreciate about our city is it is a strong council model. So the council has the power. The council members will go directly to the department heads because they're advocating for their constituents, the neighbors, the taxpayers in their area, as is the mayor. They just do it on a more direct level. And so ensuring that there is conversation between what the council members are working on, the mayor, the city council, or the city department heads is really critical. And then my strength is problem solving. And so I'm also a very big process person. And so I would actually be excited to get into City Hall and say, how do we improve some of these processes and make it easier for the citizens to engage and feel heard?
Okay, thank you. As mayor, how do you see yourself cooperating with higher education institutions in La Crosse?
So currently I sit as president of the Viterbo Board of Advisors. I love hearing what Viterbo is working on. The idea there is that you then become a ambassador for what they are doing out in the community. Same thing, I've sat on the chancellor's board that he has that engages the community. Again, it's important to know what they are working on, the challenges that they are experiencing. Again, same thing. What's good for our college campuses, getting new buildings on campus is good for our area. It makes our programs much more viable, attracts great students who can become great workers in our area, and ensuring that that bridge is clear that we want these students to stay in our area. They are up and coming workforce. They bring their innovation and creativeness and modernness, let's admit it, to our businesses, and it's a vital part of our economy, of our vibe. It's great being a college campus, and we certainly need to work with them when they are experiencing challenges.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
The next question is again about housing, and I know you talked about this as one of your main priorities, but I'll ask this question to see if you have anything else to add. Um, so the question is, do you think there's a housing crisis in La Crosse? And you said yes. As mayor, what would be your priorities as you address housing?
I think we need to, so I've spoken about it before, we need the full gamut. I think we really need to talk to developers about specifically what we can do about the train headquarters space. That is what, 40 acres that is available for development, and what that turns into has tremendous potential for our community. That's just one specific area. I think we need to talk to our developers. It's a really hard time to develop now. Everybody brings up Kmart. The numbers just don't work. The math to build right now, it's just expensive. Materials are expensive. Inflation is a factor, trying to get the funding to work. And so we need to be mindful that as we're trying to develop, what are the challenges that our developers are facing? Because we need them. It's whether it's single family homes, multifamily, or commercial, we need to be understanding and see what we can do as a city to ease some of the burdens that they face financially, so we can continue to have projects happen. The worst thing that can happen is happening in some other areas where you have some people that there's speculation housing. They build housing on speculation it will sell. Some of those builders are saying, we're just going to get rid of the housing stock because we can't carry it anymore, and they're not building. That's the economy that we have right now. That's problematic if we're trying to build housing, because we will never hit the 230 units, if you will, that we need per year if housing slows down. So we need to be working with that industry to ensure that it's moving.
Okay, thank you. And the last question, you had mentioned neighborhood associations before, so anything else to add to this question? What is your understanding of neighborhood associations and their role in the city of La Crosse?
Yeah, neighborhood associations. So I attend 2 of them on a regular basis. Funny, that kind of slows down me going to my own neighborhood association, but we have, and I have helped areas that don't have neighborhood associations when they have issues. I see them as being an engagement point. I think there needs to be more city involvement in them as a communication tool, and we need to be equipping them to be that communication tool for us. And so I'm a big advocate. Anytime you get people gathering, trying to do positive things for this community, that is never a bad thing. We need to encourage that. We need to have more outlets for it. And meeting your neighbors, getting to know people across the street just makes our community that much more safe.
Yeah, perfect. Well, our time is up for today. On behalf of our civic engagement partners, I want to thank you again for participating in this conversation, giving La Crosse voters the opportunity to meet you and learn more about your issues. And we look forward to seeing you on Election Day.
Thanks, Beth.
Thank you.